A deafening silence gripped the press room that evening, hiding a brutal truth nobody saw coming. This was no ordinary lull in the news cycle. The atmosphere felt thick and heavy with anticipation. You could practically feel dozens of journalists suffocating as they waited in absolute stillness. Time seemed to freeze entirely while glaring lenses focused dead ahead, and reporters thrust their audio gear forward like desperate, starving beasts. Facing that ravenous crowd at the front of the hall stood Tomaso Chioni. He happened to be married to the daughter of the vanished victim. The entire town spent almost a month desperately searching for 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie. She was a beloved matriarch with a deeply rooted family. Her days revolved around Sunday services and baking warm meals. She constantly dialed her kids' numbers simply to check in and chat. Vanishing without a trace completely contradicted her predictable nature. Yet she was undeniably gone. As rescue crews scoured barren landscapes using handheld beams, her son-in-law remained absolutely mute. He hid behind his expensive attorneys and refused to speak. His relentless refusal to cooperate set everyone on edge. Stepping up to that microphone suddenly caused a massive shift in the room's energy. Bodies shifted closer to the stage while camera shutters fired off like machine guns. Every hushed conversation died instantly as curiosity peaked. What dark secrets was he harboring? And would he finally spill them, coughing lightly to prepare his voice? He met the gaze of the crowd. Then he uttered a phrase that completely shattered the silence I saw her that evening. That single admission completely flipped the investigation upside down. Law enforcement spent the last month secretly piecing together a timeline. Detectives possessed physical clues and carried a long list of burning inquiries. Their underlying doubts morphed into blaring red flags over time. Yet the man dodged them constantly, providing zero statements and hiding behind strict attorney orders. But suddenly, he openly admitted his presence at the exact residence during the very hours the elderly woman vanished into thin air. Total chaos erupted as journalists immediately began screaming their demands for clarity. Lifting a single palm to command order, he continued his speech. His tone lacked any trace of grief or sorrow, echoing with a rehearsed, chilling composure. He confessed to a bitter dispute breaking out between them. The confrontation escalated into an intense feud over her desire to rewrite her estate. She intended to completely cut him off from her substantial family fortune. Following that confession, he delivered another chilling phrase that utterly froze the audience. Somebody else was present. The frantic yelling ceased abruptly as a terrifying new mystery emerged. Assuming another party accompanied the victim, what was their identity? Furthermore, what possible reason justified keeping this crucial detail a complete secret? An investigator standing near the exit rapidly scribbled down a heavily emphasized note. The narrative had violently shifted away from a simple missing persons report. This had transformed into something much more sinister. Unraveling the true horror of that dark evening requires rewinding the clock significantly. We must return to a time preceding the media circus and the frantic rescue operations. Long before the community realized she had not merely strayed from home, the starting line awaits us. Comprehending her true character is absolutely vital. Grasping the sheer magnitude of this tragedy demands recognizing the immense value she held for her adored relatives. Prior to analyzing forensic data, police maneuvers, barren highways, or hidden graves, we must hit the brakes. The focus must solely remain on the victim, as she represented far more than sensational news copy or a mere police file. She defied being reduced to just another frantic flyer pinned against a freezing street lamp. She existed as a vibrant human being. Her fiercely loyal relatives insist that her 84 years of age completely failed to capture her endless youthful energy. Wasting her days away in a rocking chair was never her style. She tackled the dawn much earlier than those decades her junior. Her life thrived on disciplined schedules, faithful worship, and tending to her beautiful backyard. Reaching out to her kids remained an unbreakable daily habit. She served as that quintessential matriarch who flawlessly memorized every single family milestone. Mailing out physical, handwritten greeting cards demonstrated her deep appreciation for traditional affection. Stepping inside her home guaranteed a massive, freshly cooked feast awaiting you. Offering warm meals acted as her personal method of showcasing pure devotion. Savannah, her child, labeled her the ultimate anchor, keeping their household united and the safe haven they always returned to. Her unwavering presence and gentle tone still managed to project an aura of absolute authority wherever she went. Decades of relentless labor defined her journey. She successfully forged an enduring household, a thriving lineage, and a beautifully grounded existence. Approaching her twilight years, she executed incredibly cautious strategies to protect her hard-earned legacy. Backed by legal counsel, she orchestrated a flawless blueprint. Her official paperwork dictated the exact distribution of her entire estate down to the letter. Handling delicate matters with sloppy indifference went against her core values. Leaving chaotic, unresolved issues in her wake simply never happened. That meticulous trait eventually emerged as a crucial centerpiece in this horrifying puzzle. However, those specific elements will be addressed shortly. Visualize the elderly woman during a standard afternoon. Imagine her resting comfortably near the dining area, sipping on a warm mug of herbal brew. A peaceful, comforting silence fills her residence. Golden rays shine perfectly through the glass, signaling a busy day ahead of her. A fierce spirit burned inside that frail frame. Though tiny, she owned her space entirely, constantly keeping busy and remaining fiercely true to her own identity. She vanished without a trace when darkness fell on February 1st, 2026. Ultimately, this entire dark narrative revolves around her tragic fate. So, where exactly does Tomaso Chioni fit in? He was the man who managed to wed his way right into Nancy Guthrie's wealthy inner circle. By marrying one of her daughters, he officially secured a spot at their table. Technically speaking, he was considered a legitimate relative by law. Close friends painted a rather clear picture of him. The guy absolutely craved dominance and made sure everyone around him felt his heavy authority. He never threw tantrums or resorted to physical outbursts. Instead, his dominance was silent, calculated, always meticulously keeping tabs on every single shifting dynamic. Monitoring privileges gave him a massive ego boost. Hoarding secrets made him feel incredibly powerful. And initially, this manipulative arrangement operated quite smoothly. Household dynamics remain messy. Relatives always adopt unique personas. Certain individuals command while others simply obey. A silent agreement rarely questioned by anyone. However, a profound transformation was slowly brewing beneath the surface. The matriarch quietly consulted her legal counsel. She started digging into asset management, heavily questioning current account overseers, and exploring the potential fallout of drastically altering her will. Ultimately, she chose to rewrite the rules completely. The precise details of those legal adjustments remain locked within an active police probe. Yet, detectives formulated a strong theory, relying heavily on paperwork, mobile logs, and intimate interviews. They pieced together a rather disturbing sequence of events. The elderly woman actively plotted to strip Tomaso of his monetary privileges. She began revoking his leverage, aggressively reassigning those critical responsibilities to far more trustworthy individuals. For an individual obsessed with absolute authority, this development spelled absolute disaster. This marks the sinister turning point. Danger did not strike instantly. Rather, an oppressive tension slowly gathered, mimicking the suffocating atmospheric pressure preceding a violent hurricane. Anyone remotely observant could easily sense the impending doom. However, the 84-year-old resided entirely by herself. Deeply relying on her relatives, she completely lacked any suspicion that this brewing tempest was heading directly toward her doorstep. Alas, February 1st, 2026 loomed ahead. That fateful evening would permanently shatter their entire reality. That winter twilight began peacefully enough. Someone requested takeout, specifically requesting enough portions to comfortably feed a pair of hungry diners. Tomaso was already waiting inside when the courier showed up. He openly confessed to his presence during that specific time frame. His visit was not brief. To a casual observer, the scene simply resembled a mundane, cozy supper between relatives. Just a thoughtful son-in-law dropping in on an aging lady. Absolutely zero red flags existed to capture a passing neighbor's curiosity. Behind those locked doors, however, a completely different reality unfolded. The atmosphere reeked of severe hostility. Insiders claim the matriarch planned to formally execute those aforementioned financial adjustments. She apparently managed a quick chat with her attorney earlier that very same afternoon. Crucial declarations weighed heavily on her mind, demanding immediate documentation on official parchment. These vital decisions required absolute urgency. Mid-evening, the frail woman grabbed her receiver, quietly dropping an audio memo for her legal counsel. The exact wording of her final recording remains hidden. Though detectives successfully recovered the digital file, authorities deemed the audio incredibly profound. Its contents proved vital enough to anchor their entire prosecution strategy. Reaching out to her counsel while her controlling son-in-law lurked nearby lacked any element of chance. Unintentionally, she had broadcast a desperate, glowing distress. Hours crawled by before chaos erupted within those walls. Our insight comes without the benefit of a hidden camera or eyewitness. Instead, the grim truth emerged from an incredibly tiny source, a hidden gadget embedded deep inside her torso, completely ignored during her daily routine. Her artificial heartbeat regulator. The elderly victim relied on one. This microscopic surgical tool rested near her vitals, tirelessly ensuring her pulse maintained a flawless, steady tempo. It served as an invisible savior she likely forgot decades prior. Much like corrective lenses fade from consciousness once they sit comfortably on your nose, the machine essentially merged with her anatomy. However, this metallic savior secretly functioned as a surveillance black box, constantly generating precise, time-stamped medical diaries. It captured every single palpitation, documented minor flutters, and tracked violent fluctuations in her cardiovascular output. When February 1st, 2026 arrived, that hidden data painted a gruesome picture nobody present realized was actively uploading. Exactly at 8:42 in the evening, her vital signs plummeted abruptly. Not a slow decline, but a massive jolt mirroring pure terror or agonizing physical trauma. By 8:47, internal sensors registered sudden, violent thrashing. These erratic motions indicated desperate struggling, consistent with someone forcibly restraining a victim. Then, at 8:52, physicians noted a massive, catastrophic heart failure. The frail widow's cardiovascular system utterly collapsed. Finally, precisely at 9:03 that evening, the internal tracker ceased broadcasting entirely. A mere 21 agonizing minutes spanned from the initial panic to absolute, deafening stillness. For 21 horrific minutes, the defenseless woman endured unimaginable torment alongside whoever stalked her hallways. Detectives lost sleep pondering more than merely the violence of those 21 minutes. The truly chilling mystery remained what exactly occurred afterward. Stepping onto Nancy Guthrie's property, detectives immediately felt a chilling absence that made their blood run cold, dead quiet. It lacked the comforting stillness you would expect in a cozy household after its residents drifted off to sleep. Instead, a suffocating void hung in the air, echoing the disturbing reality that a vital presence had been violently snatched away. Deadbolts remained secured, glass panes sat perfectly intact, and shattered entryways were non-existent, ruling out any violent breach of the residence. The perpetrator clearly bypassed traditional burglary methods and simply strolled straight through the entrance, sparking a terrifying initial theory for police. The individual slipping into her sanctuary under the cover of darkness possessed a familiar face, commanding enough confidence to be welcomed. Perhaps they held a spare key, especially since nearby residents reported zero strange disturbances, zero screaming, zero shattering items, and absolutely zero violent brawls echoed past the drywall. While Nancy's notoriously vocal little terrier pup, an animal famous for aggressively yapping at unfamiliar faces, stayed entirely docile throughout the entire ordeal. Based on accounts from close family friends, her pet recognized the visitor, and while that single fact seems trivial, it serves as a massive puzzle piece within this horrifying tragedy. It clearly indicates that the shadowy figure looming near the elderly victim felt safe to her furry companion. Lacking any threatening aura requiring a defensive alarm, detectives systematically scoured every single corner of the property, meticulously documenting each minor observation. The vehicle bay entrance sat deliberately placed at odd angles, cracked just enough to avoid shutting completely, masterfully orchestrating a blind spot against any prying eyes looking inward. Passing pedestrians lost all visibility into the driveway area, proving this strategic barrier was absolutely engineered with malicious intent in mind. The killer meticulously calculated visual trajectories, actively anticipating unwanted witnesses before executing the crime. which brought surveillance gear into focus. A comprehensive digital monitoring network protected the residents, featuring exterior lenses designed to relentlessly capture and archive every single motion. Such technology typically offers profound comfort for worried relatives checking up on a vulnerable senior citizen living independently. Yet, upon reviewing the digital archives, detectives discovered glaring interruptions, fracturing the recorded chronology. Specific intervals lacked any video feed whatsoever, and these horrifying digital blackouts mirrored the exact time frame her internal medical heart monitor flagged as an episode of severe, life-ending cardiac trauma. This issue never stemmed from random software failures. An external user manipulated the mainframe from afar, bypassing firewalls using the primary administrative credentials instead of relying on brute force hacking or limited visitor access. The exact authorization code typed perfectly by an inner circle confidant. Leveraging an electronic tablet linked to the localized wireless internet, the intruder swiftly toggled all lenses into a dormant diagnostic state, effectively halting all data capture while keeping warning sirens completely silent, allowing subsequent destruction to unfold utterly undetected by authorities. A single lens suffered manual tampering, enduring aggressive tactile manipulation, though this overt vandalism occurred purely after the digital feed died, proving the culprit understood crucial tactical sequencing by neutralizing the invisible software long before aggressively attacking the actual exterior physical casing itself. This action lacks chaotic fear, representing pure, premeditated strategy instead. Detectives lingered inside the residence, suddenly grasping the sinister narrative materializing in the shadows. Realizing they faced an incredibly calculated assassination, we are discussing a suspect lacking spontaneous rage or fleeting panic, highlighting a predator navigating the hallways utilizing an icy, methodical precision rarely seen in typical domestic homicides, a phantom perfectly memorizing blind spots while clutching the secret router codes in hand. A frequent houseguest possessing intimate technical knowledge required to gracefully disable the complex defensive grid without ever triggering a solitary warning siren during their lethal late-night visit. A familiar presence accepted by the terrier, juxtaposed against the deafening quietness from Tomaso Chioni. As police frantically decoded the silent clues left behind, Tomaso engaged in behavioral patterns that struck the public as profoundly sinister. Absolutely nothing. Skipping out on neighborhood search parties and completely avoiding tearful media briefings where relatives frantically begged the community for help. The authorities received zero constructive phone tips from his end. Digital platforms remained empty of his pleas for witnesses, but he quickly secured incredibly expensive, high-profile legal counsel. Shielded by attorneys, he offered only absolute muteness. Though we must acknowledge that every American citizen rightfully possesses the constitutional privilege of avoiding self-incrimination, retaining legal representation remains a fundamental protection within our justice system, serving incredibly vital societal purposes. Hiring defense attorneys rarely equals automatic guilt, yet public observers immediately contrasted his behavior against the sheer volume of Nancy's daughter, Savannah. She dominated local broadcasts while constantly attending massive neighborhood rallies, trembling as she clutched maternal portraits. She pleaded with every passerby, weeping openly whenever uttering the word mother, all while relentlessly coordinating civilian grid sweeps, establishing dedicated hotlines. She drained her personal savings to fund cash bounties, desperately praying a random stranger might eventually reveal her beloved parents' hidden location. Nancy's remaining offspring mirrored this exact agonizing persistence. Loudly fighting on the front lines, they embodied the pure, raw agony of deeply loving an undiscovered missing relative, whereas Tomaso Chioni remained completely and utterly invisible from this entire grueling public equation. He vanished into thin air. Entirely ghosting them, Savannah stood utterly alone without his support. He refused to carry Nancy's picture or show his face at any community search event. The whole town constantly gossiped about his eerie calmness, while her relatives openly suffered in absolute, visible agony. Total strangers picked up on it, right alongside lifelong pals and those living right next door. Viewers observed it on their home televisions, sensing a deep, sickening dread twisting their guts. Losing a loved one demands immediate action and desperate movement. Even pointless tasks provide comfort. since freezing up simply drives a normal person absolutely insane. Yet Tomaso remained completely motionless for weeks. Tipsters flooded the hotlines while rescue crews continuously scoured the woods. While Savannah pleaded publicly, he cowardly hid behind his legal team, sealing his lips firmly until that fateful moment he finally approached the microphones. Which brings us right back to the beginning. Let us revisit the exact phrase that shattered this mystery. The media hall was absolutely packed to the brim. Journalists caught wind that the prime suspect planned to deliver a massive public address. This promise guaranteed a completely sold-out room, broadcast gear stacked incredibly high, leaving anxious onlookers crammed tightly against the back boundaries. Crowds swarmed the exterior, constantly hitting reload on their mobile browsers and staring intensely at digital broadcasts. The highly anticipated climax had finally arrived. The suspect took his position at the stand, appearing wildly altered compared to his widely shared media portraits. He seemed noticeably shrunken and incredibly cautious. He nervously fiddled with the perfectly positioned audio equipment. Staring intently at his fingers, he finally raised his gaze, breaking the silence. He acknowledged the public's desperate need for concrete answers. His legal counsel allegedly ordered his absolute silence, a directive he strictly obeyed due to overwhelming fear and deep personal bewilderment. Announcing his urgent desire to clear the air, he finally dropped the absolute bombshell. He admitted being present that evening. The space fell so incredibly dead that the overhead air conditioning unit sounded practically deafening. Pushing forward, he confessed to visiting Nancy's residence that twilight, leading to what started as a simple chat. That calm chat rapidly morphed into a fiercely heated dispute. Nancy was apparently altering her official documents in ways that ruined him financially, pushing their already strained dynamic straight past the absolute breaking point. Mid-fight, the elderly woman supposedly tumbled to the ground, swearing he never laid a finger on her. He claimed total mental paralysis. Then came the shocking declaration that completely derailed the detective work, forcing everyone to look in a totally unexpected, wildly different direction. Nancy lacked solitude. It was not merely him sharing her roof, but a completely mysterious third party lurking nearby. A totally separate individual occupied the property, an absolute ghost who somehow remained completely undetected throughout the entire massive police inquiry. He deliberately withheld this secret accomplice's identity while speaking at the microphone, promising full compliance with authorities. He insisted his defense squad was actively hammering out the finer points. The explosive impact had fully landed. This tragedy instantly evolved from a simple solo suspect scenario into a much larger puzzle. A shadowy accomplice now entered the spotlight, prompting the authorities to swiftly kick their efforts into high gear. Analyzing the clues following his shocking public declaration brought terrifying new insights. Detectives fast-tracked everything at warp speed, armed with the one incredibly vital weapon they lacked, previously a direct, voluntary confession. By placing himself at the literal crime scene, all previous coincidental timeline theories suddenly transformed into hard, undeniable facts. Every shred linked directly to a guy openly admitting to the whole globe he stood there. Officers double-checked every single file. The victim's cardiac logs received a rigorous review. Digital clocks directly mirrored his suspected journey. 8:42, 8:47, 8:52, and 9:03. Every specific minute perfectly matched the exact time frame he willingly confessed to spending inside her living room. Next, the explosive cellular data emerged. Just past 9 o'clock at night, his mobile dispatched a rather quick alert. It offered zero context, zero excuse, and absolutely zero pleas for assistance. A single term handled. This deeply chilling phrase rippled through the precinct like a heavy boulder plunging into a silent lake. Reading it sent immediate shivers down the detective's spines and dropped the room's temperature. The term handled totally shatters his carefully crafted image of a terrified daffod's clueless guy hopelessly watching an old lady trip without knowing what to do. That specific phrasing screams of a cold operative confirming a successful mission objective. It heavily implies a killer updating an associate about eliminating an obstacle. The word reeks of methodical planning, absolute ice, and dark finality. Authorities tracked this highly suspicious transmission straight to a disposable burner device, the exact anonymous model purchased entirely with untraceable paper bills. These units practically guarantee zero ties to actual human identities. Criminals heavily favor them to completely erase their digital footprints. Yet technological breadcrumbs frequently outlive these pathetic cover-ups anyway. Signal data proved this burner bounced off a mast hovering dangerously close to Nancy Guthrie's estate that very evening. That definitely confirms the mystery receiver lurked close enough to matter during the absolute chaos. A chilling digital alert erupted just past 9. Cargo was packed, and heavy objects definitively shifted. A shadowy car slipped away from the estate in total silence, bypassing sleeping residents under the cover of a pitch-black, unobserved night. Earlier that night, the surveillance hub flagged a bizarre Bluetooth ping, proving an unknown gadget synced up right from the living room. Detectives suspected this exact gadget hacked the video feeds, shutting them down completely by forcing a fake maintenance cycle. This tech did not belong to her, nor was it authorized anywhere on the network. Whoever held it was physically standing inside Nancy Guthrie's residence, executing a cold, deeply calculated plot. Soon after, local antennas caught that exact signal fleeing the suburbs, maintaining a steady, calculated pace straight toward the outer city limits. He drove straight into the wastelands, an absolutely unforgiving environment that stretches out flat and vast, far beyond what any normal person could ever imagine. Daylight brings a brutal, punishing heat that feels deeply personal, before plunging into freezing temperatures the second darkness falls. It is a shocking chill that shatters the myth of endless warmth. Out in a barren void totally lacking street lamps, lacking paved paths or friendly faces, leaving only dirt. Alongside creepy rustling in the pitch black that you pray is merely a breeze, making it the absolutely perfect, desolate hideaway for anyone who wants to vanish without a single trace. Consequently, it also serves as a flawless dumping ground for sinister secrets meant to stay buried forever away from prying eyes. As authorities trace those digital breadcrumbs away from the victim's street and deep into the dusty, desolate trails, the exact target remained a total mystery. Though they were absolutely certain a crucial transport occurred, cops confirmed a getaway car sped this way past 9 on February 1st, definitively proving that the unspeakable horrors of that evening spilled far beyond the property line. Recovery crews scattered over a massive perimeter, advancing with the painfully slow precision of highly seasoned trackers. Staring at the dirt, they marched in strict geometric lines to ensure zero oversights in a landscape that only seems barren. Suddenly, subtle clues emerge, starting with distinct rubber tracks carved into the dust, appearing so incredibly crisp that the harsh gales had not yet blurred their boundaries, revealing a highly identifiable wheel design that could crack the case wide open. Detectives snapped photos, pushing forward until spotting oddly shifted earth. One specific chunk of earth stood out like a sore thumb against the naturally compacted, ancient terrain surrounding it completely. The wilderness slowly bakes into a hardened shell, and once that crust is shattered and hastily patted down, the nasty scars remain blindingly obvious forever. Spotting it requires expert eyes, which these professionals definitely possessed, prompting an immediate halt, flagging the exact coordinates. They quickly radioed for specialized gear, plunging shovels into the earth to instantly strike a heavy fabric. A deeply tinted, bulky industrial quilt typically wrapped around precious antiques or massive couches during major residential moves to prevent ugly scratches. Half remained safely buried, bunched up violently as if a panicked suspect aggressively shoved it away, pushing the dedicated excavation crew to dig even deeper into the hole. A tiny, boxy object emerged from the grit, unbroken the exterior shell of a cardiac implant. It was the victim's own heart monitor hardware, stashed leagues away from civilization inside a meticulously concealed excavation site that someone desperately tried smoothing over. Back at the precinct, dead silence fell over the briefing room. Knowing full well that medical implants stay firmly put, they definitely do not rip free from a patient's chest and wander into the Badlands, meaning a human forcefully extracted the device. A killer smuggled this item far past the municipal borders, plunging it into the mud like a smoking gun they desperately needed completely vanquished. That grim reality was undeniable, making this specialized gadget far more than a simple health tool. It served as an incorruptible digital bystander, utterly immune to fake alibis. Slick attorneys, or highly fabricated press releases from desperate suspects. It held rigid chronologies alongside undeniable analytics. Crucially, it captured a permanent digital record of the exact physiological trauma Nancy Guthrie experienced on the night of February 1st, definitively proving whoever buried it completely bypassed a chaotic roadside toss. Avoiding reckless disposal methods, the ruthless perp navigated deep into the terrifying, shadowy abyss, hunting down an insanely isolated patch of nowhere, burying the damning device with chilling, highly calculated, and purposeful precision. Such behavior totally eliminates the theory of an accidental serves. Blind rage committed by a highly confused amateur. Instead, it points to a mastermind meticulously analyzing the horrific fallout, actively destroying elements that might guarantee a brutal life sentence if discovered. Staring at the unearthed hardware, the detectives instantly realized they were hunting an apex predator, acting with terrifying premeditation that completely eclipsed the media's official narrative. As the tactical units pushed their boundaries outward, the hunt for mere superficial clues vanished entirely. They were hunting for Nancy's body. Detectives ripped that crime scene apart one last time while teams scoured the barren wastelands. Fresh leads completely shifted their perspective, demanding another microscopic sweep of a residence they thought they had cleared. A fresh set of eyes often catches hidden details during a follow-up sweep. It is never about missing evidence entirely, but rather knowing exactly which shadows to illuminate. A lone detective spotted an unexpected gadget sitting quietly inside the parlor. An interactive digital assistant rested on the countertop, constantly waiting for vocal prompts. Nancy owned one of these devices. As many seniors rely on their convenience for daily tasks, users simply shout out commands to dial family members or check the local forecast. You can illuminate entire rooms without ever leaving your seat. These automated hubs also capture brief audio fragments whenever triggered. The hardware is never designed to monitor private conversations around the clock, but background noises resembling activation commands frequently trick the software into saving tiny sound bites. Law enforcement subpoenaed these cloud files immediately. Detectives plugged into their headsets and braced themselves to hear the playback. The majority of the archives contained mundane daily activities, routine weather queries, phone dials, and the peaceful ambiance of a woman simply going about her day. Everything changed when they uncovered a brief file from the evening of February 1st. It barely lasted 3 seconds. Detectives played the recording back. Then they hit rewind and shuddered. A fragile, terrified plea echoed through the speakers, chilling them to the bone. Somebody begged for mercy. Then came a sickening impact. A brutal, hollow crash, mimicking dead weight, collapsing violently against solid flooring after a vicious shove, followed entirely by dead air. That singular, desperate plea marked the final documented moment of Nancy Guthrie's existence. She never managed to scream a name or yell loudly enough to alert oblivious neighbors strolling down the street. A defenseless 84-year-old victim merely whispered a tragic surrender inside her supposedly secure personal sanctuary, pleading hopelessly with a ruthless monster who refused to show her any mercy. Please. Detectives silently absorbed that heartbreaking audio. It grounded them amidst the chaos of medical device metrics, pinging network towers, alarm logs, unearthed metal parts, and tire tracks ruining the dunes. Homicide squads easily detach from reality, treating these gruesome scenarios like challenging brain teasers. Just another twisted mystery demanding resolution, yet that audio file shattered their clinical detachment instantly. They remembered a human being. They remembered Nancy Guthrie as a loving mother who adored chatting with her kids, a sweet lady mailing out handwritten birthday greetings, a devout churchgoer who tended beautiful flower beds and lived faithfully by her habits, uttering the final breath she possessed. Please. The seasoned detectives locking eyes with Tomaso Chioni inside that claustrophobic questioning chamber were hardened veterans. This story is not just about a crime, it is about choices. And the moment those choices define who we truly are, in the face of conflict, fear, and pressure, every person reaches a turning point. Some choose honesty, responsibility, and compassion. Others choose silence, control, and concealment. And sometimes, the difference between life and death is decided in a single moment. Whether someone calls for help or chooses to cover the truth, the most powerful lesson here is simple. Yet profound character is revealed when no one is watching. It is easy to appear calm, controlled, even convincing. But true integrity shows in crisis when doing the right thing is the hardest option. This case also reminds us to never ignore what feels wrong. Awareness, courage, and speaking up can change outcomes. A small detail, a voice, a decision. These are not insignificant. They are everything. And above all, it teaches us the value of human life. No person should ever be reduced to a problem to handle. Every life carries love, history, and meaning. Because in the end, justice is not just about punishment. It is about truth, dignity, and bringing someone home.